Blah, y'all already know what it is. Your boy Yaakov, what it do? The outlet to reality, the holdest podcast in Vegas and Chicago. What up? This is the place where you want to hide from your drama or maybe hide from your baby mama. Aha, just kidding. But anyways, fans, thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. And today we have a very special guest. He is the co-host for Mercedes in the Morning on 94.1 FM, and also the co-host for Las Vegas Now TV and 8 News Now. Give it up for your special guest, J.C. What's up, brother?
What's up? That is an intro right there. I love it. That's good stuff.
Oh, man. Thank you, man. I was a little nervous.
You're bigger. This is bigger than Las Vegas and Chicago. This is coast to coast worldwide, my man.
I love that. Thank you. Now, I do want to share a quick story for my fans. I think they're going to love it. So for those who don't know, I met JC before the pandemic and a little bit after. And I got to be honest with you, I'm so happy that any chance I have, whether it's only 2 or 5 minutes conversation, I love that. I remember when I started my podcast and the first thing you said was, David, I want you to, keep putting out new content, just don't stop, make it consistent. You want to have discipline so that your fans can take you serious. And I'll never forget that, JC, and I'm really grateful. And I want to ask you, what was your first impression when you met me?
I loved your enthusiasm, like your energy, and your energy is contagious. Every time you and I run into each other, I always pick up on your energy. And that's something a lot of people that do radio and TV, they're just, I don't know, they come across like flat. To me, if you have that energy, that spark inside, that comes across on camera and that comes through the speakers too. And that's something that you have. And as a guest, normally I'm the one doing the interviewing. So as a guest, I feel relaxed, I'm comfortable, and I'm also feeling your energy coming through, which makes me feel good and brings up my energy, which makes your show more entertaining.
I love it. Thank you.
Oh, that and you smell good too. I don't know what cologne you wear. You always smell good too, man.
I try, I try to get the good stuff, especially with if I get a lot of pretty women I see time to time, I got to make sure I'm ready for action.
That's right. They call it the James Bond theory. James Bond always looks good because some guys, they'll be in a grocery store at the gym. They see a girl they're attracted to and they're dressed like a slob. Like, oh, I don't want to talk to her because I don't look good. It's the James Bond theory. You always look good. So when you see someone you like, you feel confident in yourself to go talk to them.
I love that. No, it's very true. Very true. And JC, I do got to ask you, so my fans to get to know you more, I want to ask you, tell us a little bit about your background, your hobbies, and also one big thing too. I know your last name is Spanish. I want to know if both of your parents are Hispanic, tell us, spill the beans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Fernandez, my dad is Cuban. He was born in Cuba. He fled when Fidel took over his whole side of the family. They fled and came here to the States, and they came here to Florida, Miami, worked their way up to Pennsylvania, where he met my mom, and they got married right out of high school. My mom is an Irish girl from Philadelphia, and I look like my mom. I sound like my mom. I talk like my mom. I don't have I don't speak any Spanish. I don't think I look Hispanic, but yeah, my dad's Cuban and his whole family speaks Spanish. And I'm very, very proud of that side of the family. Grew up in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. And what brought me out here to Las Vegas was to go to UNLV, which was back in 1995. And so came out here to Las Vegas to go to school and kind of pretty much been here ever since.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. It's a big transition because Pennsylvania, it gets cold there, at times. Yeah. And moving to Vegas where it's so hot the majority of the time. I mean, I'm still trying to adjust.
That got me to Las Vegas. It was 1994. And I at the time I did 2 years at community college. And I wanted to get out and see the country. I wanted to explore the country and just get out of my little bubble of the suburbs of Philadelphia. And at the time, I was studying hotel management. I worked in a hotel. And so I figured I want to continue my degree in hospitality management, hotel administration. So I went to the library, got a book out about colleges, looked at the best 2 hotel schools in the country. At the time, Cornell was number 1. That was out of the picture. UNLV was number 2. So I applied to UNLV. I'd never been to Las Vegas, knew nothing about Las Vegas, but I applied. And about 3 weeks later, I got an acceptance letter from UNLV. That was December of 94. I literally flew out the following week with my dad to look at the school, fell in love with it, and I moved out in January of 95.
Oh, wow.
But it was just a great way. In my mind, it was a great way to go see the country, get away from home, and still at the same time continue my education and make my family happy by, I'm still continuing my education. I'm just now doing it 3,000 miles away from home.
Oh, man. So you had no family, no friends out here in Vegas?
Nothing. No.
Wow. You're brave, man. You're brave.
No. But I tell you what, you grew up real fast. And I met some friends that are still to this day. I ended up joining a fraternity. I joined the Sigma Chi fraternity, and some of those guys are still my closest friends to this day. And it was an experience, though, moving across the country. I just came out on my own, didn't know a soul, but I just fell in love with the people in this town.
Wow. No, that's great. That's great. Now, I have to ask you, so what got you into radio and TV?
It's funny because I still love the hotel business. And when I was studying here at UNLV, studying hotel, I liked radio, though. And I was a huge Howard Stern fan. And that's kind of what gave me the bug, was just being a fan of Howard Stern. I was the guy that bought all his books, saw the movie. I would sit there in my car when class was over and listen to Howard Stern until the show was over. And I felt like in Las Vegas that this town, you can do anything you want. There was like a magic about this town. And so as I'm getting ready to graduate, I'm thinking, do I want to go work in a hotel, or do I want to somehow kind of try to dabble in radio, at least give it a shot, because this is a town you can do it in. So I graduated in 97, and I told my parents, like, listen, I really want to try radio. So I'm going to take a year to see if I can get my foot in the door, start somewhere, and just see what happens. Give it a year, give it 2 years. I'll still be young. If it doesn't work out, and I can go into hotel and go down that road. And so I graduated in 97, and I thought about getting an internship. But the thing about an internship, you have to be going to college to get an internship anywhere. You need to get college credit for it. So I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of a pickle. I just graduated. What do I do? So I re-enrolled into UNLV in the communications department, just so I could look for an internship and get internship credit. And that was in the summer of 97. I started doing that, going back to the classes about communications. It was at that same time that I got a job here at Mix 94.1 working in the promotions department. And that job opened up all kinds of doors for me.
Whoa. And so you've been in that station for a long time. I mean, like you said, 1997, you're still doing it. I mean, that's amazing. That's like, you're like a legend. This is big, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I gotta ask you something. So when doing radio, right? I know it's hard. Do you have to find the guests to come on the show, or how does it work?
Yeah, so my path is, so I started producing in 1997. For then it was at the time was Mark and Mercedes. So I started as their first producer in 1997. I did leave in 2001 to 2005. I went to Washington, D.C., where I was a producer as well. But for up until I became co-host in 2015. When I was on the air with them all the time with Mercedes, and I was always on the air, but an official host and no longer producing, that transition took place in 2015. So prior to that, I was the guy, booking all the guests for the show. If we were going to do a bit, gas prices are really high right now. Anytime there's high gas prices, we used to do gas promotions where we'd go to a gas station, maybe give out free gas or discounted gas. I'd be the one that would call the gas station, talk to the owner, set everything up, set up the details. I was the producer of the show, executive producer. And so the number one thing was always booking guests and trying to.
It's amazing. It's amazing how you've seen the difference, transitioning and being like a producer. You have a lot of responsibility. I bet you had your phone constantly ringing all the time, on the go,
Big on getting guests and stuff. In Las Vegas, being in Las Vegas, we were blessed because there would be, comedians coming to town. Remember the TV show Everybody Loves Raymond? Yeah. Ray Romano was a big comedian, still is, and he would come to town a lot. So other radio stations across the country, they wouldn't be able to get Ray Romano on. They want to get him on the show, obviously, to talk about his TV show, and it'd be hard to get. I could get him on because he was coming to Las Vegas to do a stand-up show. We'd get him on because he wanted to promote his stand-up gig. And so that's how we got a lot of our guests back in the day. And here's a funny story about Ray Romano, just to show you where my like producer mindset would work. I'd always be looking about how can we make an interview bigger? How can we take advantage of something? So Ray Romano was on our show. This is probably 1999. Everybody Loves Raymond was the #1 show on CBS, probably #1 show on TV at the time. And we had him on. We had a great conversation about the show. And we literally made a passing comment. Mercedes made a passing comment. She's like, "We love to be on the show, be an extra or something," just a passing comment. He goes, "Yeah, sure, no problem." It was literally a 5-second comment. That was it. And we continued with the interview. Interview ends. I literally pick up the phone. I call his publicist. I'm like, "Hey, Ray was great. He invited us to be guests on his show." And she's like, "Oh, he did?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "We can be extras. So I want to call and set that up." She's like, "Well, let me talk to Ray about it." And so she talked to Ray, calls me back the next day. And she's like, "Yeah, Ray said you guys can fly out and you guys can be extras on the show." Like, what? A month later, we flew out to LA. We're on the Warner Brothers lot. And we were extras on an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. It was an episode about Ray going back to church. And if you watch the episode in the church, you can see Mercedes. She's very visible at one point. You can see the back of my head, but all because that one little comment that Ray Romano said, my producer mind was, let's jump on that. Let's make this bigger. What else can we do? And we got on national TV because of it.
Wow. That's a great marketing like tool. Like that's a genius what you just thought of like on the spot.
Oh, I would look for those opportunities all the time. And then we're on the set of Warner Brothers. We've got, passes to walk around the lot. I would walk around. I had like a mini recorder, and I would walk around, and I'm literally walking through the Warner Brothers lot, probably going places I shouldn't be. Friends was filmed on the Warner Brothers lot, and there is Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox walking together. So I went up to them and I'm like, "Hey, do you have a minute to?" And they're like, "No, we can't talk to you." I'm like, "Well, can you say hi to Mercedes then?" And they said hi to Mercedes, and I had that audio clip, and so we were going to play that audio clip when we came back. But it's like always looking for opportunities, and also as a producer, you have to be fearless. You cannot be. There can be no hesitation when it comes to producing.
Whoa, that's that. I love that. Thank you. You're really making me now wanting to think outside the box. Like that's really good.
Yeah, when it comes to getting guests, you just got to get. I mean, I can go on and on about stories about trying to. I got one more for you. It's a classic story. You ever see the movie? It was called The Mexican. It was with Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They filmed it here in Las Vegas. I mean, they're 2 A-list stars. I literally tried for 2 weeks. I tried everything. Called their hotels they were staying at. I would send flowers to the hotel room. Call their publicist, and they kept saying, "Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not going to happen." And then one day, a listener called the show, and they're filming on Summerlin Parkway. And Summerlin Parkway wasn't as big back in 1999, 2000, but they were filming on Summerlin Parkway. So I took the station cell phone. I'm like, I'm going to where they're filming. I'm going to go on the set. And this is all happening live on the radio. I'm sneaking up to the set. I actually get on the set of The Mexican, and they're filming right in front of me. I start walking up. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm looking for Brad Pitt or Julia Roberts. I go walking up. Finally, security sees me. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's cool. I'm with Mix 94.1. I'm trying to find Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts." I'm on the phone live on the air. And they're like, "You can't be here. What are you doing here?" They chase me off the set. They call the police. It's a whole thing. The cops were cool. They didn't do anything. They let me go. It was just madness on the radio. But the funny part of it is probably 2 nights later, it's Saturday night. I'm at the lounge inside the Venetian, and Julia Roberts comes walking in. I'm like, "There she is." So I go up to her and I explain. I'm like, "Hey, my name is J.C. I work for a radio station. I've been trying to get you on the show. Would you be able to call us?" And she goes to me, she goes, "You're the one." I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "We've all heard about you." And I'm like, "You have?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, can you come on the show?" And she goes, "No, sorry."
Oh man, wow. That's crazy. She knew right away who you were.
She knew of me. She was sweet about it. She goes, "You're the one." And I'm like, "Oh." So they obviously, they told Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts, "There's this radio station trying to get you guys on." But I'm like, "Can you come on then?" And she goes, "No." Darn it.
Oh man, but you know what? I gotta say, you definitely are very persistent. I think that's a character that's great to have, because there's some people when they have an opportunity, and the door closes, they give up.
Yeah.
they lock themselves up and they're like, you know what, I'm going to give up my career, my dream. Maybe it's not for me, but I like that you are not a quitter. You're going to keep going until, you're not going to stop. I like that. I really do like that.
Well, you're the same way. You've had some great guests here on the show, and you've been persistent ever since you first told me you were launching the podcast. It's consistency, and you keep getting bigger and bigger. I'm sure you're seeing your numbers keep growing and growing and growing. Even with us, we tried to do this last July, and I was heading out of town. We couldn't make it happen, and then we bumped into each other again, and we were able to do this. You have to be, if for some reason they say no or the door closes, you have to look for another opportunity to make it happen. You can't give up on the first try.
For sure. No, it's really, really true. And I'm happy we're here. And JC, I got to ask you something. So, you living in Vegas and going to school, were there any mentors in your life that actually helped you to get where you are now?
Credit to Mercedes. I mean, we have such an amazing friendship. And at the time when I started working with her, the show she was with, Mark and Mercedes, they were on the air for maybe 3 or 4 months. So our careers kind of, grew together. And then in 2001, when I left to go to DC, I wanted to come back, and it wasn't easy to get back. And she was there, always going to bat for me. A couple of times it came close to me coming back. It just fell through. And then I remember it was 2005. I came back to visit her and I had lunch. I'm like, listen, I want to come back. I want to work with you. And she went to the general manager and went to bat for me there. So she was always, and still is, my number one. Always had my back with something, always so supportive. Talk about, someone giving you encouragement to try new things. She's always that person that would do that for me and still does.
Wow. No, that's good. I think in life, we all need somebody to, to count on, like almost like an accountability partners, or someone that can help us grow if we're falling, if we need that extra step. I think that's great. Your chemistry with Mercedes and you is very, like, you guys click together. Like, you guys act like best friends, and I love it. It makes the show go like very smoothly,
Yeah, I mean, we've known each other for 25 years now, and so there's a chemistry, there's a connection there. You feel each other's energy. It's, if she starts to go, one way, like I know where she's going, or if I say something up here because I want her to react to it, she knows why I'm saying this, and she reacts to it over here. It's a sixth sense to pick up on each other, to be able to read each other. And I think it just comes from being friends for so long. It's just there's a natural chemistry. And when I was in DC, I worked with shows that we didn't have that, and it was rough. You'd go in and I'd say one thing, and they wouldn't either understand my sarcasm or they wouldn't see where I'm going, and those shows didn't last because that connection, that chemistry wasn't there.
Wow. No, that's good, JC. I'm really happy, man, for you and for all the success you made. And I want to ask one last question. Actually, I got 2 more, but one last question that I want to ask. I know our fans want to know too is, how did you meet your wife? That's the big one.
So Laura, we met in 2003. This is when I was in Washington, D.C., and she was my intern. She was my intern in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
She interned for the morning show I worked with. We met on St. Patrick's Day in 2003. She came in and applied for the internship. And obviously I thought she was, I was much younger then. And I thought she was really cute. And she started working for the show in June. And it's funny because I think she was working for the show for a week. And we finished the show and she calls my assistant after the show in a panic. Her car broke down. She's having car troubles. It's smoking. She's scared. And my assistant, his name was Yanni. And Yanni says, Laura's having these car problems. Do you want me to go take care of it? I'm like, yeah, we go see, make sure everything's okay with her. Cause she doesn't have family in town. And he's like, okay. And then I was finishing my work. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'll swing by her place and make sure everything's okay. Literally innocently going over to make sure everything's fine with her car. And I get there. It's not smoking. I'm not a mechanic. So I'm like, listen, let's take it to a shop here in town. Have the guys do a once over, make sure everything's okay. And, I just want to make sure your car is fine. And so I did. Dropped it off at the shop, and she told the mechanic all the problems that was happening. And then her and I had lunch, had a couple drinks, and we really hit it off, and went back to get her car. And the mechanic's like, there was nothing wrong with her car. So long story short, she kind of faked stuff was wrong with her car in order for us to hang out. And we've been hanging out ever since. The rest is history.
Whoa, that's amazing, man. That's amazing.
And so
Wow.
we moved back to Las Vegas in '05, and she did sales here at the radio station. And then in 2013, she left to go work for Pandora, the streaming service, where she still works today. So she works for Pandora and Sirius XM, and now she's the VP of Travel and Tourism for Pandora and Sirius XM, and she is just crushing it. I'm so proud of her.
Wow, no, that's good, man. Like you two are like hands out a very strong power couple. I think that's a beautiful story. I'm happy I got to know because all my fans they hit me up. They're like, hey, ask them this question. We want to know. So I was like, let me ask about this. I don't even know either how they met. So I think this was really cool. And JC, one last thing. This is the very last question is
Yeah.
what advice can you give to anyone who wants to pursue radio?
Yeah, like going back to you have to be persistent. Be persistent. Don't and the hardest part is just getting your foot in the door. It really is. I started in promotions, so if you want to get on the air and you can start working in the promotions department, just find a way to get into the radio station. And just once you get in, just go all in. Give everything you have. I started in promotions, and I knew I wanted to be on the air and producing. That's what I wanted to do. And at the time, Mark and Mercedes needed someone to do an on-air stunt for them, and I'm like, I'll do it. I'll be your guy. And we hit it off then, and the rest took off after that. But you just got to be persistent. And if you want to do radio, you just have to look for that opportunity to get your foot in the door. They're not going to hire you to be on the air. They might hire you to work in the promotions department, work in the sales department. But once you get in, you'll meet the program directors. You'll meet the people in the building. You'll see all the different departments. And I've seen it happen so many times here. Someone starts in promotions, they work their way to on air, or they start in sales. We had a girl that worked in our sales department who ended up going to working with our sister station on their morning show. Very successful career she had. So just look for that opportunity, for that door to open. And once it opens, you go all in. You max out your effort and give them everything you got.
I love it, man. Thank you, brother. So now I'm gonna wrap it up, guys. This is the Outlet to Reality. They'll hold this podcast in Vegas and Chicago every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. You know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, the Outlet to Reality. My TikTok is at Yaakov28, and my Snapchat is Take One Pass It. And JC, where can my fans find you?
All social media platforms, J.C. Fernandez, and also on Mix 94.1 in Las Vegas for radio, and then Channel 8, Las Vegas Now on your TV in the afternoons.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. That was fun.